Chapter 1, the vacation everyone thought was perfect. The ocean was supposed to fix us. That's what my husband said when he booked the trip, that a week away, with sand under our feet and no schedules, would reset everything. I wanted to believe him. I needed to. From the outside, our family vacation looked flawless. A beachfront resort in Florida, white balconies facing the water, palm trees swaying like they were paid to be there. Both sides of the family together, his parents, my parents, our kids, his sister and her husband. Loud dinners. Group photos. Matching smiles. If someone had scrolled past us on social media, they would have thought we were winning at life, but I already felt the distance before we even unpacked. My husband, Mark, wasn't cruel. That almost made it worse. He was polite. Distracted. Always half present, like his body was with us but his mind had checked into a different room. The first night, while everyone toasted with champagne by the pool, he stood slightly apart, phone in hand, screen tilted away from me. When I asked who he was texting, he didn't lie. He just said, "Work stuff," and smiled like that should end the conversation. I told myself I was tired. That stress can make you imagine things, that marriages go through phases. The second day, things got louder. His mother criticized the way I handled the kids. His sister joked, too casually, about how Mark deserved a break. My father tried to keep the peace. My mother squeezed my hand under the table like she sensed something I hadn't named yet. The third day, I started counting moments instead of days, how often he disappeared, how rarely he looked at me, how quickly he flinched when I reached for his hand. That afternoon, the resort hosted a family activity near the private cabanas. The kids ran ahead, my in-laws argued about sunscreen, and I went back to our room to grab my sunglasses. That's when I noticed Mark wasn't behind us. I assumed he'd gone to the bathroom. Or to take a call. Or to breathe. I didn't chase him. I never chased him. That was part of how I'd learned to survive our marriage, giving space, hoping he'd step back into it on his own. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Something in my chest tightened, not panic yet. Just awareness. I took the long path back toward the pool area, passing the quiet side of the resort where the landscaping was thicker and the foot traffic thinner. I remember noticing how still everything felt. No kids shouting. No music. Just the sound of water moving. That's when I saw them. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. 2 figures near the far cabanas. A man leaning in. A woman laughing softly, her hand resting where it didn't belong. Then he turned his head. I knew the line of his jaw the way you know your own reflection. I knew his shoulders. I knew that shirt. I'd folded it the night before. My husband, the woman was younger than me. Not dramatically, just enough. Long hair pulled back, sun-kissed skin, a bikini that made no effort to be subtle. She touched his arm like it was already hers. My body froze before my mind caught up. I didn't scream. I didn't rush forward. I didn't cry. I stood there, half hidden by a row of palms, watching my marriage unfold in silence. When he noticed me, it was instant. The color drained from his face. His posture shifted, not guilty, not ashamed, alert. Strategic. He stepped away from her and walked toward me fast, lowering his voice before I could say a word. "Please be quiet," he whispered, eyes darting around. "Not here. Not now. Please be quiet." Not "I'm sorry." Not "this isn't what it looks like." Not "we need to talk." Just manage this, contain it, protect the scene. The woman disappeared behind him, already retreating, already trained. I looked at him. Really looked, and in that moment, something settled inside me. A calm I didn't recognize. A clarity that scared me more than anger would have. I nodded, not because I agreed, not because I forgave, but because I understood something important. If he thought silence meant weakness, he was about to make the biggest mistake of his life. I walked back toward my family with him trailing behind, his hand hovering near my back like he wanted to guide me. I didn't let him touch me. Inside, I wasn't breaking. I was planning, and I decided right then, I wouldn't ruin the vacation, I would let it finish. Chapter 2, Smiling through the lie. Silence is louder when you choose it. I learned that on the walk back to the pool, my husband just a step behind me, pretending nothing had happened. Every laugh felt too sharp. Every splash too sudden. The world kept moving, unaware that mine had split cleanly in 2. His mother waved us over, already halfway through a story I'd heard a dozen times before. His father asked Mark about golf. The kids begged for ice cream. Someone handed me a cold drink, condensation dripping down the glass, grounding me in the strangest way. I smiled. I don't know how convincing it was, but no one questioned it. That's the thing about being the reliable one. The calm one. People trust your face. Mark leaned in close as we sat down. Not close enough to be intimate, close enough to control. We'll talk later, he murmured. Please. I didn't answer, not because I didn't have words, because I had too many. I watched him instead. The way his knee bounced under the table. The way he laughed a second too late. The way his eyes kept scanning the crowd, checking if she was anywhere nearby. That told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't a mistake, this was maintenance. The rest of the afternoon blurred into fragments. Sunscreen. Towels. Group photos where Mark's arm rested on my shoulder like a prop. His sister joked about how lucky I was to have a husband who still looked at me like that. If she only knew. At dinner that night, the long table was set right by the water. Candles flickered. The ocean reflected golden pink as the sun went down. It was beautiful in the way things are when they don't care what you're feeling. The woman was there, not at our table, close enough to be seen. Sitting at the bar with friends, laughing easily, her head thrown back like she had nothing to hide. Mark noticed the moment I did. His body stiffened. He reached for his wine too quickly, knocking it slightly against the glass beside it. No one else seemed to catch it. Do you want to leave? He asked me under his breath. Now he wanted to move. I shook my head. No, my voice didn't shake. That surprised him. We ate. We talked. We pretended. And every so often, my eyes drifted, not to her, but to him. Watching how careful he was. How managed. At one point, his mother leaned across the table and smiled at me. You look so peaceful, she said. Vacation suits you. Peaceful. I almost laughed. That night, after the kids were asleep and the balcony doors were open to let the ocean air in, Mark finally spoke. I didn't plan for you to see that, he said. That was his opening line. Not I'm sorry, not I hurt you. Just logistics. I sat on the edge of the bed, folding a towel slowly, deliberately. Giving him space to keep talking. It's been complicated, he continued. You know, things haven't been easy between us. I nodded again. I was very good at nodding now. She doesn't mean anything, he added quickly. It's not what you think. I looked up at him then. Calm. Direct. What do I think, Mark? He hesitated. That pause told the truth before his words did. I think, I said softly, you think if I stay quiet long enough, this will disappear. That's not fair, he snapped, defensive now. I'm trying to protect everyone. Everyone, not me. I stood up and walked past him to the balcony. The waves were steady, relentless. They didn't ask permission before crashing. They didn't apologize afterward. I won't cause a scene, I said, still looking out at the water. I won't ruin the vacation. Relief washed over him instantly. I could hear it in his breath. Thank you, he said. We'll deal with this when we get home. I turned to face him then. No, I said. You will. He frowned, confused. What does that mean? It means, I replied evenly, I'm not reacting. I'm observing. That night, he slept quickly. Deeply. Like someone who believed the danger had passed, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind clearer than it had been in years. I replayed everything, the whispers, the timing, the confidence she had. This wasn't new, and that realization unlocked something cold and powerful inside me. The next morning, while everyone else slept in, I took my phone into the bathroom and locked the door. I checked our shared accounts, our calendar. His email notifications that still synced to the family tablet patterns. Emerged quickly when you stopped looking away. Dates he'd worked late. Trips that overlapped, expenses that didn't belong to us. By the time I put the phone down, my hands were steadied. I wasn't panicking. I was preparing. Out there, the vacation continued. Laughter echoed down the hall. Someone knocked, asking if I wanted coffee. I opened the door and smiled. Yes, I said. I'd love some. Because I had decided something important. If my husband thought silence meant surrender, He was about to learn how wrong he was, and this vacation, it wasn't ending in peace, it was ending in precision. Chapter 3, The Quiet Work. There's a strange freedom that comes when you stop needing answers from the person who betrayed you. The morning after my discovery, I woke up before the sun. The resort was quiet in that suspended way, before breakfast trays clattered, before kids ran down hallways, before laughter filled the air like it was owed something. Mark was still asleep. I watched him for a moment, the slow rise and fall of his chest, his face relaxed in a way it hadn't been with me in months. He looked peaceful. That almost hurt more than the affair itself. I slipped out of bed without waking him. Down by the beach, I walked alone, my feet sinking into cool sand. I let the ocean noise drown out the questions I didn't need anymore. I wasn't here to understand why. I was here to decide what. Back in the room, while everyone else was busy planning snorkeling and group lunches, I did my quiet work. I checked documents, screenshotted messages, saved timestamps. I didn't confront him. I didn't cry in the bathroom. I didn't tell my mother or text my best friend. I stayed still. That was the hardest part, acting normal when your insides feel rearranged. But I'd learned something important over the years. People underestimate women who don't react the way they're supposed to. At lunch, Mark was attentive. Almost kind. He asked if I wanted anything from the buffet. He complimented my dress. He laughed at my jokes like he used to. Guilt can be charming when it wants to be. His sister leaned over at one point and whispered, "You two seem better." I smiled back. "We're on vacation." That night, the resort hosted a sunset cocktail hour. Soft music. Linen chairs. Everyone dressed a little nicer, like appearances still mattered. She was there again, closer this time, not near him, but near enough to make sure I noticed. She didn't look at me. That was intentional. Confidence without confrontation. A woman who believed she had already won something. Mark felt it immediately. The tension in his shoulders. The way his hand found my lower back, possessive now, as if proximity could rewrite the truth. "Please," he whispered again. "Just get through tonight." That word again, please, not for me, for him, for optics. I tilted my head slightly. "I am." And I was. Later, while everyone danced and the kids chased lights across the patio, Mark went to the bar. I stayed seated, watching him from a distance. That's when she approached me. No drama. No apology. Just a glass of wine and a calm smile. "I didn't mean for things to happen like this," she said quietly, as if we were discussing the weather. I looked up at her. Took her improperly this time. She was beautiful. "That wasn't the problem," he said. "You knew," she added. "That you were okay with it." There it was, the lie he'd told her, the version of me he'd invented to make himself comfortable. I nodded once. Slowly. "I do know." Her smile flickered, just for a second. Confusion slipping through. "And I am okay," I continued. "With you." She relaxed. Relief washing over her face. "I'm glad," she said. "I didn't want to hurt anyone." I stood up then, meeting her eye level. "You didn't," I said softly. "But you should be careful who you trust." Her brow furrowed. "What does that mean?" "It means," I replied, "men who lie easily don't usually stop at one person." I left her there, uncertainty replacing confidence. That night, Mark was restless. He kept asking if I was okay. If I wanted to talk. If we should set boundaries. I told him the truth. "I'm observing," I said again. That's all. The next morning was our last full day. Everyone buzzed with end-of-trip energy, packing lists, souvenir plans, last swims. Mark seemed lighter, like he believed he'd made it through the storm. I booked a meeting instead. While the family was at the pool, I sat in the quiet lobby with my laptop open and my phone pressed to my ear. The attorney was calm. Efficient. Unemotional. I liked her immediately. I didn't say everything. Not yet. I just asked questions about options, about timing, about preparation. When I hung up, my reflection in the dark screen looked different. Straighter. Sharper. That evening, as the sun dipped low and the resort glowed one last time, Mark wrapped an arm around me and sighed. "I'm glad we came," he said. "I think this really helped us." I looked out at the ocean, endless and indifferent. "It helped me," I replied. He smiled, misunderstanding completely, and for the first time since I'd seen him with her, I felt something close to satisfaction, because I knew something he didn't. This vacation wasn't a repair, it was a countdown. Chapter 4. The return home. The airport felt colder than it should have, even in summer. Even with sunlight pouring through the glass walls, there was something sterile about the way we stood in line together, our bags neatly stacked, our kids arguing over snacks, Mark's hand resting lightly on the handle of the suitcase we'd shared for years. Shared, the word tasted different now. On the flight home, he slept, head tilted toward the window, mouth slightly open, the picture of a man who believed the hardest part was over. I watched the clouds slide past and felt strangely detached, like I'd already left something behind at the resort. Not him, the version of myself who used to beg for clarity. Once we were home, life rushed in to fill the space. School schedules, groceries, laundry that smelled like sunscreen and salt. His parents texted about what a wonderful trip it had been. Photos appeared online, cropped smiles, perfect timing, no cracks visible. Mark leaned into normalcy like it was a shield. He kissed my cheek in the mornings, asked about my day, mentioned plans for the fall, for next year, for a future he assumed still belonged to both of us, and I let him, because while he was rebuilding comfort, I was building structure. 2 days after we returned, I met the attorney again, this time in person. Her office was quiet, deliberate. Framed degrees on the wall. No judgment in her eyes when I told her everything, not the dramatized version, the clean one. She listened, nodded, asked careful questions. When I finished, she folded her hands and said, "You did the right thing by waiting." That sentence stayed with me. Not "I'm sorry this happened," not "that must have been hard," just "you did the right thing." I gathered documents at night while Mark watched television. I forwarded files to a private email. I learned how much I didn't know about our finances, and how much he assumed I never would. The more I learned, the calmer I became. He noticed the calm. "Of course, you seem different," he said one evening as we cleaned up after dinner. "Different how?" I asked. "Lighter," he replied. "Like you're not carrying everything anymore." He was right, just not in the way he thought. A week later, he brought her up, not directly. "Never directly. Do you think," he said casually, "that people can make mistakes and still move forward?" I dried my hands slowly. Turned to face him. "I think," I said, "that moving forward requires honesty." He nodded too quickly. "Of course." That night, I slept deeply for the first time in months, because the plan was almost complete. The final piece came quietly. A message popped up on his phone while it was charging on the counter. Just a name. No preview. But I recognized it. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. Instead, I scheduled the meeting. The next Saturday, I asked him to sit down with me at the kitchen table. The same table where we'd helped our kids with homework. Where we'd planned birthdays. Where I'd once believed our marriage was strongest. He smiled nervously. "This sounds serious." "It is," I said. I slid the folder across the table. He didn't open it at first. Just stared at it, sensing the weight. "What's this?" he asked. "Information," I replied. "And a decision." His smile faded. "I know about her," I said calmly. "I've known since the vacation." His mouth opened. Closed. He looked stunned, not that I knew, but that I'd waited. "Why didn't you say anything?" he asked. "Because I wanted to understand who I was dealing with," I said. "And what I needed." He reached for my hand. I pulled it back. "I'm not here to argue," I continued. "I'm here to be clear." I watched realization settle in. The shift from control to panic. "What do you want?" he asked. I met his eyes. "I want honesty," I said. "And I want separation." The word hung between us. He started talking fast. Apologies. Promises. Versions of the future rewritten on the spot. I listened politely, then I stood. "I didn't stay quiet because I was afraid," I said. "I stayed quiet because I was preparing." That was the moment he understood. Not everything, but enough. Chapter 5. The sound of my own voice. The quiet after truth is heavier than the truth itself. Mark sat back in his chair, hands gripping the edge of the table like it might slide away if he let go. His face had gone pale, his confidence collapsing inward, piece by piece. "I can fix this," he said. "We can fix this." I shook my head slowly. Not angrily. Not dramatically, no, I replied. "You can't fix something you refuse to protect." He stared at me like he was seeing a stranger. Maybe he was. The woman sitting across from him wasn't the one who begged for connection, or softened herself to keep the peace, or stayed quiet because she thought love required endurance. That woman had stayed at the resort. I stayed silent, I continued, because I needed to hear my own thoughts without your explanations interrupting them. He swallowed. "Is this about her?" "It's about you," I said. "And the choices you made when you thought no one was watching." He tried again, tears this time. Regret dressed up as urgency. "I never meant to hurt you." I believed him, and it didn't change anything. "You didn't mean to protect me either," I replied. Over the next weeks, the logistics unfolded calmly. Too calmly, he said. He kept waiting for me to break. To yell. To collapse. To need reassurance. I didn't. The attorney handled the paperwork. I handled the truth, with my parents, with the kids, with myself. I didn't tell them everything. Just enough. Their reactions were quieter than I expected. My mother hugged me longer than usual. My father said, "You did right by yourself." My children asked if we were still a family. "We are," I told them. "Just a different kind." Mark moved out on a Thursday afternoon. No shouting. No audience. Just boxes and the sound of a door closing softly behind him. That night, I sat alone in the living room, surrounded by the echoes of a life that had almost convinced me to disappear inside it. I waited for the grief. It came, but not like I expected. It came as relief. Weeks later, I ran into her, not at a resort, not in secret. A coffee shop near my office. She froze when she saw me. I didn't know," she said immediately. "Not the whole truth." "I know," I replied. She looked confused. "How?" "Because if you had," I said gently, "you wouldn't be standing here now." She nodded, shame flickering across her face. "He told me you were distant," she said. "That you didn't care." I smiled, not cruelly. "Clearly, he said that because it was easier than admitting I was becoming stronger." She didn't reply. I wished her well. And I meant it. That was the moment I understood something important. Closure doesn't come from confrontation. It comes from clarity. Months passed. The house felt lighter. My days felt intentional. I stopped shrinking my voice to make space for someone else's comfort. One evening, as I watched the sun set through the same kitchen window where I'd once slid that folder across the table, my phone buzzed. A message from Mark. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then I typed back the truth. "You had it. You just didn't value it." I put the phone down and didn't wait for a response, because I had finally learned the difference between silence and strength. Silence is what you choose when you're afraid of consequences. Strength is what you choose when you're ready to face them. On that vacation, when my husband leaned in and whispered, "Please be quiet," he thought he was asking me to disappear. What he really did was give me space. Space to listen, space to plan. Space to remember who I was before I learned to stay quiet for love. And when I finally spoke, the only voice I needed to hear was my own.